tea. We're back for another one of our riveting Game of Thrones reviews. Yeah.
Episode 2.
Yeah, 702. It's called Stormborn, which is obviously one of the many names for Daenerys. I don't think I could recite all the names, but she's Stormborn. I consider that like the top one, even before Mother of Dragons, because she was Stormborn first. That's what I'm saying. This was well, maybe I shouldn't give my general thoughts first. I thought it was a good episode. I don't know. I guess I just did. Whatever. Before we delve deep into it, did you generally like the episode?
Yeah, the last like 5 minutes upset me very much, but the episode in general I enjoyed. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, relatively the same. I think the scenes that I really loved were good enough that the ones that I was like, oh, well, okay, didn't really matter as much, and just taking the good. I think we forgot to say who we were because I'm not including intros in these videos, so I'm Cass.
I'm Becca.
And yeah, that's right. We usually talk about mostly video games, but we're doing the Game of Thrones reviews the best we can. Sometimes it's hard to get on a proper schedule for both of us, but we try. Well, this is weird. It's okay. Let's discuss the first scene, which was Daenerys at Dragonstone with Tyrion and Varys, and probably Melisandre and Grey Worm in there. I can't really remember who was in the background. What did you think of this scene? This kind of, intense doesn't seem the right word, but yeah.
It was tense. I appreciated that, she came to the conclusion, like, do you want to be queen of, ash? Like, basically, like, a bunch of dead bodies and people who have been victimized by you and stuff. And it's like, not really. I don't want a landscape that's been charred.
I think this is, I don't know if that happens here, but I'm pretty sure this is actually the scene where she is interrogating Varys about his lack of loyalty, and he, proclaims that they're going to have to kill him because he's not going to be, what was his phrase? He's not going to blindly serve, but he serves the people. That was this scene.
Yeah, I thought he also said something about
I think that was later on. I mean, we can discuss it all.
Well, they mention it later on, but
I think they said in both. You're right.
Talked about it first here.
You're right. I was just interested in the Varys thing. I think that's why I was bringing up, because I found that interesting.
It was. I mean, having to see him defend himself, because it is sort of like, it feels like you just change sides, like, on a whim. But at the same time, it's, I felt for the first time in a long time that, like, Daenerys was more Daenerys than herself, at least in respect. She was like, she didn't like Dragonstone. She didn't want to be there. She didn't remember it. She was like, I don't. So they're like, oh yeah, don't worry, we won't be here long. And she was like, oh, awesome. What was I saying? Oh yeah, that it was a little weird that it was a little later for her to be bringing this stuff up. But I like that she was like, could you not conspire against me, and could you just tell me when you think I'm failing the people, rather than, because I loved, the point she made about her brother being like, how do I know that you're not just going to betray me and betray, everyone that you suddenly change allegiance to, but, more specifically me, because you supported my brother. And I believe her words about him was that, you're right. He was cruel, stupid, and weak. And he's like, well, I didn't know you existed. And she calls him out for trying to have her murdered, which is very valid. Very valid issue. And also that it seems like, why was he supporting Viserys? Because he says he wants, to serve the people. There's still questions there. He's a character I don't as much get, but maybe they'll be talking about that more in the future. I liked the conclusion.
I still have a lot of questions about what his deal is. I don't think we probably won't ever get the full extent of his motivations, and maybe
Probably
in the
not.
books. Maybe in the books we will. I hope so. But I think there's definitely more to that, because it was an issue of like, well, he did in the end betray. Actually, you know what? I think his deal in the books, and I don't know if this has ever been discussed on the show, but in the books, he stands by the Mad King like until the bitter end, and he has the opportunity to kind of. I think he has some sort of opportunity to stop it, and he stands by the Mad King. Now, maybe behind the scenes he wasn't. I can't remember. But from what I recall in my book reading, he always was loyal to him. And if he really wants to serve the people, I feel like that is not true. And I think that's why people suspected that he was a secret Targaryen, because the Mad King did kind of help lift him out of his situation, because he gained notoriety for being, the spider. And he was useful to the Mad King, but I don't know. I still think a lot of things are unclear. So I think she's wise to be like, I'll burn you alive if you, because I mean, that's fair. I think that's fair. It's cruel, but it's fair.
Yep,
because
it's fair.
I don't think he would do any less. And I don't know. It's those type of characters are hard, but what makes the show really good too, as well. Still, she's like, "Oh, you traded me to Khal Drogo."
Yeah. I did like that she just basically called him out on all the bullshit he did, and she's just like, yeah, you can't just pretend like, oh, I was just I didn't have any control over that. It's like, you clearly did.
He did. He makes choices. He probably could have saved Ned, but he didn't. I mean, he might have died too in the process. I'm not, fully blaming him for that situation. In his twisted way, he tried to help Ned. And at the end of it,
Ned was real dumb.
Yeah,
as the
that's
problem.
true. That's very true. I actually hadn't really considered, kind of off topic, a lot of people that really love Cersei and while admitting her her many faults, will be like, well, what was Cersei supposed to do if Ned was going to tell Robert about everything, and then what was going to happen to her kids? And like, I had always thought about that, but I guess in Cersei's mind, it's kind of weird. I'm starting to have more. Now, I like Cersei at all at this point in the show, but at the same time, it makes you think about like the choices, and Ned didn't make the best choices.
Well, the fact that he like told her, and I was just like, I guess it's him assuming like everybody's a nice person and is gonna be honest and not try to kill me, and it's like, oh my god.
Yeah, she's gonna murder you. She's gonna murder you, friend. She's gonna murder you good.
She clearly murdered her husband. She's clearly gonna murder you. Like, how are you not seeing this?
I don't know. He's pretty dumb. And at the end of it, he's like, I choose you. And that's it, Pokemon. That's it. But yeah, I like that scene. We didn't get a lot of Daenerys last episode, so I'm glad that we came back in with it. Yeah, that was good, but I still question why it took her that long to have that conversation. I kind of thought she might murder him, and I was kind of okay with that. I don't know why. Not that I don't like him, and not that I want her to, but by the same regard, I was like, oh, it's going to be a call out. But I'm glad for her story that she didn't. It's just, I probably wouldn't have been shocked if she did, because he's not really trustworthy. Yeah, but he does know stuff, so he's necessary at this point. Okay, you ready to go into scene 2? The fun scene 2, which is technically not a different scene because we're still at Dragonstone.
Yep.
Okay. Melisandre comes, and she's, like, you have a role to play in another. And she's like, what? And then she's like, oh yeah, the long night. And also the prince or princess that was promised, because, hi, Valyrian, it isn't a gender specific word. So it's prince or princess. And she's like, I like that. And and she's like, oh, also Jon Snow, he's the other one. And she's like, he sounds like quite a man. And then Dany's like, yeah, let's summon Jon because, Tyrion likes him. We need an ally, and, he needs to bend the knee. And that's that. He's going to bend the knee. Which we know probably won't happen, really. And maybe that's a whole thing to get into later on. But what did you think of her showing up? I don't know why she would go back there, Melisandre. I wasn't exactly excited to see her again.
No, I was like, man, when are you gonna please just leave? I'm tired of you. Like, after she killed the little girl, I was just sort of like, when she killed Shireen, I was like, I am just waiting for the minute that you die. Like, I'm ready.
I think we all are. I think she would be a great sacrifice. But it's funny, I was watching the Comic-Con panel, and the actor who plays Davos was like, he was asked a question, I can't remember what it was, but his answer to it was that if he ever saw Melisandre again, and nobody was going to know about it or whatever, he would totally murder her. And at least in his opinion. And so I think it's interesting that later on we find out that he's joining Jon to come and see Dany. So he's gonna encounter her again. And I honestly think that if Daenerys finds out what she did, just because of her relationship and how she feels about that kind of shit, I think she won't be happy. If that comes up. I think Davos is most likely to secret murder, but what do I know? I would love that. Because, I'm not attached to her. Some people like her, but I'm just not attached. At least I think in the book it's a little more nuanced. She has some much better characterization in the books, but on the show it's just kind of pointless at this point because I don't know what she's contributing other than I do like that she was like, you can't, she says something about prophecies and not putting too much, not reading literally or something about reading the prophecies that was a little more enlightened because we saw that she had a loss of faith a little bit after the whole Jon thing or when she thought he wasn't coming back. So I like that inclusion. That was a little bit better than just being deluded as she is. But that was, and then what does Varys pipe in and say? He says something like he's like, oh, she served Stannis. Yeah, so she knows that now. I don't know if she's going to stay there. I don't really want her to.
What's funny is I just wanted to be I feel like you should be the last person pointing those things out because it's didn't we just talk about how you've served
that was the point.
15,000 different people?
Yeah, she's like, you're lucky you came when you did because we just decided to kind of pardon people who had, or consider pardoning people who had served other kings and queens or whatever. So
yeah,
it's a good day. It's a good day to come and, I don't know. She doesn't have much of a choice because everybody has kind of been serving other people, so she's just not going to be able to find the quantity of people she needs with that. Yeah, so yeah, that's all I got. Anything you want to add about Melisandre's joining us?
No. I just really hope that she has to see, because I think Jon threatened her too. I think he was like, if I ever see you back here, you're dead.
You know what? I can't remember. I feel like he didn't really want her to go, was my general impression. But she, I don't know. You probably are right because I just don't remember.
I just feel like he found out from Davos that she had murdered and sacrificed a little girl, and he was like, you need to
I feel like that did happen. If you say so, I totally believe you because I don't know.
Because I just remember I felt like Davos and Jon were on the same wavelength of I appreciate that you brought me back, but you need to fuck off.
Yeah, I think Jon would definitely, if Davos didn't say, I think Jon would definitely tell Daenerys what kind of person he was dealing with. But also that she brought him back. I mean, those, I don't know. I'm glad Jon's back. It's not enough a reason for me not to kill her.
Yeah, for real.
Point. So then from there, we move quickly on to the aftermath of that. It's very quick, which is that Tyrion is getting the note or Tyrion sent a note to Jon at Dragonstone, and I think Davos was reading, and Davos can read now. That's right.
Aw.
Can he? I think he can. I think he was the one reading it. Somebody was reading it, or Sansa. I don't know.
Shireen lives on in his ability to read.
That's very
it's
true.
Sweet.
They read it, and Sansa is suspicious. And then Tyrion had included a little inside joke, the one he shared with Jon about all dwarves are bastards in their father's eyes, so he'd know it was him or something. And Sansa's like, he was nice to me. He didn't, rape or murder me. And she's like, but also don't go because you just can't trust it. Can't trust it. And then Davos, he makes the shocking discovery that because fire kills whites, whatever, that the dragons would be great to have around, which is like what everyone has known since day one. So some real catch up going on here.
Finally making that connection.
There's so many connections being made that you're just like, well, yeah, duh. There's dragon glass at Dragonstone.
Yeah,
the dragons can kill White Walkers. I'm so glad that we're finally, some of us have this in our mind, and we know this because this was really tiring. So yeah, for now they're like, no, we're not going to do it. It's too much a risk. It's too much. I mean, do you think that was a good choice in the moment based on what they knew of Daenerys and stuff?
I mean, he's basically like, we need that dragon glass and the dragons are going to be useful. So I think it's smart that, and I mean, I thought it was really touching because this is the same scene where she's like, who are you? You're just going to abandon us? Sansa's like, you're going to abandon us? You're just going to abandon your people? And he's like,
I think that's
no,
later on,
them.
but it's
It
okay.
is? I thought it was in the
No,
same
no, it's
scene.
not. I'm like, hold on a minute. I don't want to interrupt and be rude. It's not. No, this is when they decide ultimately it's too much a risk. It's a very short scene. And later on. So, see, not much happens here, so I was kind of like trying to skim over it, but I wanted to make sure there was nothing else you had. I just wrote woohoo. Yeah, that doesn't happen till later, but it's okay. It's okay.
Well, then just cut out me talking about it.
I know. It's perfect. It's perfect. What is time anyway? All right, the next scene, I'm sure you have stuff to say about. Cersei is on the Iron Throne, and she's talking to lords that she has summoned. And she exaggerates a bit, and she leaves some stuff out when she's talking about Daenerys, and some of her stuff is true. She tells the nobles of Daenerys is coming. She uses plenty of offensive language about the Dothraki that are with her, and what are they called? The Unsullied. And
yeah.
And that's pretty upsetting. She's fear-mongering mostly, but there is some truth to what she's saying. And she's like, oh, she fed them all to dragons. She fed the noblemen, which, P.S., I don't remember, but I feel like she probably did feed one. I just can't remember. But yeah, she's like, oh yeah, they killed the noblemen in Slaver's Bay, which is like, yeah, that's true. She did do that, but they were also really bad people, sort of like you all. So I get so that's technically true on her end. And she's like, I need your support. And then there's Tarly, who's like, she got dragons. And no, I'm not going to do that. And then after that, Jaime goes after Mr. Tarly. And he's like, I came, but, and he's like, thank you for coming. He's like, well, I had to come because, like, Cersei apparently murders people who don't come. So, and I was like, is Jaime still alive at this point? I don't know if he's alive. Like, is he a mannequin, Jaime? I don't know what's going on.
I don't know. I keep waiting for, like, him to stop. Just stop, honey. Please, just leave.
It's not going to stop, apparently, because I tried to watch the promos, but I did see a promo, which kind of gave away this episode that I was pissed about because it gave away the ending of a later on scene. But we do see that they're, like, they're smooching at some point, so it's pretty upsetting.
Okay, but here's my thought. I'm really hoping that he leaves and she thinks he comes back, but it's actually Arya. And maybe that's that scene and Arya is going to poison her or something.
I think Arya needs to leave it alone. I know she has her reasons, but like she needs to go home. That's my thought on that. I'm not saying she shouldn't have something to do with it, but I feel like I feel like Cersei is probably going to last till the bitter end, at least in the show. I don't know why, and by some means, maybe not. I kind of want different things for Arya, but that would be neat. And the rest of it is that Tarly's like, I'm not going to fight Alina. We've known each other since we were kids. But Jaime's like, she's crazy and broken. And the Tarly's like, I'm allied with Tyrell too. But he's like, oh, but you bowed to the queen, and Jaime is using slurs too. And I'm like,
pissed me
yeah,
off.
you're a bad boy, Jaime. You're a bad boy. That was my total thought. But then he's like, you know what? I could get you to be the warden of the South. Like, what do we think of that? What do you think of that? What do you think?
What we think?
Does that sound good to you?
You like that?
And but yeah, this was probably my more upsetting scene of the episode in terms of like just the language used and just how boring it was. It's boring because this scene made me go, Jaime, maybe you can die and I don't care. Which is sad because I like Jaime, but I'm just not seeing how he's going to, between now and even the end of this season and the finale, how he's going to come out of this, because I'm just not seeing anything worth a shit in him anymore.
I mean, sadly, I'm agreeing because I'm just real disappointed in him because it's like, you saw what she did and you're okay with it? You're okay with that? You're really gonna say like, that's fine.
He's so stupid at this point. And that's the only word. I just don't. I'm tired of it. I'm tired because you think that based on everything we know that there'd be something in him, but he's just, I don't know. He's like a puppet for Cersei and he doesn't seem to have any individual thoughts. I mean, he expresses them, but then when it comes to like acting for her and actual things, he seems to only do what she says. And the only person he has really, I don't think he has any friends. He just has Cersei. So I guess she's that important still, even though clearly Cersei's kind of lost it at this point. He's talking about she's broken, and all I can think is, like, you could see that scene as a parallel to the other end. I don't think he sees it that way, but, Tarly going, oh, Olenna, we've been friends forever. I'm not going to do this to her. But then Jaime's like, she's broken. And all I could think is, well, someone could say that to you, darling. She's broken and clearly a little bonkers. I feel like I can say that as someone who's experienced bonkersness, that she's bonkers. She's bonkers. I ain't never killed nobody though, so.
Nope.
That's the difference, Cersei. I ain't never killed nobody.
She killed like a lot of people. Like a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. And I mean, at the end of the day, maybe the thing that makes me have less sympathy in line with that whole Cersei was protecting her kids, and has always been protecting your kids, is that like, if she hadn't killed the Hand, Ned would have never come. Probably no one would ever have found out. But then I guess I have to go again with that. The previous Hand knew? I don't know. It's so complicated. I don't like it.
I don't even remember why she killed the Hand.
Because he knew.
It just so she could kill Robert?
No. Remember, he knew about her kids. So I totally forgot that. So I guess in the end, I still don't think she had to kill him. Because I think he's a little less believable. And I don't remember if he was actually going to tell anybody. Probably. Well, actually, you know what? Did I lie? Did Cersei not actually kill? Oh my gosh, now I'm just thinking, did his wife, what's her face? The Tully sister?
Oh yeah, she had him killed. That's right, because she wanted to be with Littlefinger.
Yeah, I don't remember. I think that, but maybe I think Cersei had something to do with it. Maybe they collaborate. I can't remember. I I, I don't know. Now I feel dumb, but it happens. It's a lot. I think we find that out later, or she helped. Either way, I think Cersei was involved somehow. That's all I'm gonna say.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, Jamie is having a fun time. And then the next one we have the Maester inspecting Jorah's grayscale, which, by the way, in the last episode we forgot to mention that scene where Jorah reaches out at Sam and I think he asked about Daenerys. I don't really remember. It was so quick, and that's why we forgot to talk about it. But now we're seeing more into that and actually seeing Jorah. And he says, Maester says, you have years, but your mind will go in 6 months or less.
Ugh.
Yep. And then Sam asks about a cure, and the Maester's like, no.
LOL.
No. And he's like, what about, Shireen? And he's like, Shireen got lucky. She's a baby. This is too advanced. And then they're like, you can stay one more night, Jorah, but then, because you're a knight. And then he's like, cough, commit suicide, cough. And that, yeah. So, which I thought was like there got to be something else. That seems like a pretty extreme way to go. Like, couldn't you offer him something else? Some other alternative to stabbing himself? Just seems,
yeah, that guy's not
he's
real
not very
sympathetic.
nice. He's not a nice man. And Jorah says his last name, and Sam is like, and yeah, and then he realizes that, obviously he knew his father and loved his father and was with his father when he died. And then you can see in his eyes right there, he's resolved to try to help Jorah live. Yeah. Poor
Sam's
Jorah.
a good boy.
He is a good boy. And he's kind of an audience surrogate at times in finding stuff out, and yeah, which I appreciate. He's one of the more relatable characters. In most ways.
I'm drinking coffee, by the way. It's iced.
Ooh.
So if you hear like weird rattling, that's what it is.
I'm okay with it.
It's just me drinking
I'm okay.
iced coffee.
I had
Sorry.
hot coffee, but I was like, I was disgusted for a moment. Sometimes I just can't. But ice sounds really good. Nice and cooling. I just have water. And so there wasn't much to that scene. I mean, it kind of builds up to what happens later. So, the next scene is Qyburn, I think is his name. He takes Cersei down to the crypts, and they see the giant dragon skull with a giant, like, I don't know the proper word for it, but it looks like a ground crossbow that's really big. And there's some other stuff said, but that's like the gist of the scene. And one of the things that seems to have been on other people's minds too, because I've done some Googling here, because this really ticks me off. I guess they were like, oh, we found some plans for this in the past when this was an issue fighting dragons. My issue is this: mass production, number one. Number two, aiming. I assume dragons are much faster. Just the whole maneuvering this, having people that actually know how to use it, and mainly mass production, because I know time is a wonky thing, but also that it doesn't like seem like I don't know. There's so many questions like, how mobile is this? How easy is it to aim? I got a lot of questions. So as great as Qyburn thinks he is with this, and as like Cersei shoots the dragon skull, P.S. what a freaking waste of a beautiful skull.
Yep.
Which is really great. I loved seeing that, actually. I mean, it's sad because I love dragons, but yeah, so I didn't really see as much like woohoo in this as they appear to. I still don't think that's enough, but right. And guess what? If you kill a dragon, I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you, you bastard. Don't you touch it. What did you think of this defense?
I mean, all the same things. I was like, this seems not easy to wield.
Yeah.
And dragons can fly and move. It's not like they're going to be asleep and you're going to be able to, like, you know what I mean?
Aim!
Yeah.
That's aim. Yeah.
Just didn't make a whole lot of sense. I was like, I mean, it's a cool concept, except for the fact that it won't fucking work in real
I'm gonna be
life.
so mad if it actually does work on the show, because I'm gonna be like, well, listen, like, I understand, like, I hope this isn't George's book plan, because I'm not gonna buy it. I'm gonna need more explanation.
Well, that, and it's like, you know, I'm willing to suspend my disbelief for, like, dragons and White Walkers and all that stuff, but, like, the idea of people being able to shoot something that, like, unwieldy, that doesn't really aim that well at something that's moving and huge and on fire, it seems just, I can't believe it. I'm sorry.
I would be more happy if it backfired, honestly, because that would be like, well, duh. But I feel like they hype themselves up a lot, so I feel like this is their masterful plan, and I hope that's not true, but I won't be shocked if it was.
I mean, they also thought that a show about, like, what, Confederate or whatever, they think that that's a good idea, and I've seen so much stuff being like, no, y'all, don't do that.
They're just so interested in things. It's actually funny. They were talking about this next scene in the after episode. This next scene is the one between Dany, Yara, Ilaria, and Alina, where they're plotting at the table. And they always have really funny after the episode discussions, which sometimes help enlighten things that you're like, what the hell? But mostly they're just kind of funny, and they're like, how rare is it to see 4 women strategizing over a table? And I'm like, wow, your achievements, woe is me. I'm so bitter.
You solved the feminism
you
puzzle.
Solved the patriarchy. Like you fixed it.
It's over.
You fixed my whole life, because you have no women writers this season, and for the past 2-3 seasons, or directors. Well, there might have been one, but anyway, I digress.
I don't know. I can't even watch those after things because I just get pissed off looking at their faces.
Sometimes you have to, though, because, like, well, there's a scene we'll talk about coming up that is really funny. But Dany is like, this is where she again says what you said. I won't be the Queen of Ashes. Despite the other women being like, storm the King's Landing now. Which, P.S. in retrospect, maybe. Yeah. Maybe. I'm not saying I want it. I mean, let's be real here. A lot of the people that are still in King's Landing aren't the best of people. Don't think they deserve to die. But I think a lot of people have fled because they know, if they can. I don't remember if there's like I don't remember if they're keeping people in. I can't really recall. But I don't think so. But Dany's like, I'm not going to be the Queen of Ashes. Ilaria is really awful. She's just awful. She's so awful. I don't know how you feel about her, but she's not my favorite. She's pretty cruel. As we've seen.
That's Oberyn's paramour, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's funny because Ryan stopped watching the show because he got so mad about the sand snakes thing.
It's pretty upsetting.
He was like,
well, guess what? After this episode, we have less problems.
This is true, but he was just like, I don't understand, because he was like, you know, in the books, what's so amazing
they're awesome. They're great. And they're not
awesome.
All one, like, bloodthirsty. There's a scene...
And his paramour's great, too. He was like...
Yeah, did that happen last episode or this episode where they're like, I will murder you if you don't leave me one to murder? Remember, it's like, maybe I'll just murder you first so I can get all the murders.
Oh, I don't remember. Anytime they come on the screen, my eyes glaze over, and
you remember what true sadness is. And
yeah, because the sand snakes should have been like the coolest part of the show.
With Marcella, is that her name? In the books, and they were obviously much better characters. Yeah, that's something that really made me among other things, was like, should I stop watching? Because I don't like this, but I've learned to separate the show and the books and not place blame for the shitty decisions. But it's just fun for them to explore this sort of one-dimensional murderous vixen angle. It's the new.
All I think about is murder. I don't eat. I don't sleep. I just murder.
Yeah. Olena is, my granddaughter tried, kindness. She was loved by the people, and she's dead. So, yeah.
Yeah, but the people didn't kill her.
I know that's true.
Cersei did.
That's
so
true.
It's like, once you get rid of Cersei, I think you're going to be okay.
I think if you're smarter than Cersei and you don't go into a building, full of, but not that I don't know. That still is very upsetting. And
that part
kindness apparently is death. And she's like, gotta be feared. And their plan instead, Tyrion and her's plan, is to instead surround the capital by taking the forts or whatever around the capital, King's Landing, and then while the oh gosh, what's their name? While the Dornish people, the actual Westerosi people, take King's Landing, along, I think, with the Greyjoys, but maybe not. I think so. Then her Unsullied are going to take Casterly Rock, which is the real seat of power for a long time, which is kind of true. King's Landing will starve. Yeah. So that's a plan, which we find out later doesn't really work out. But then Olena sits down with her and is like, peace can't exist. We didn't have peace under your dad or any of your relatives before. And she's like, don't be a sheep like the other men in power around. You're a dragon, be a dragon. Which, to some extent, I agree, but I do think that she's going to have to, well, I mean, I don't want to hold her to higher standards, because the thing is, like, even with Joffrey, even though Joffrey was clearly a piece of crap, like, he got away with doing a lot of shitty stuff. And I don't want to hold, just because Daenerys is a different type, I don't want to hold her to a higher standard of like, well, she can't have casualties, because obviously there's so much shit going on. People were, getting raped in the villages and the shit they did. I mean, I hold her to higher standards than that. But I also don't want to be like, well, this is a war and she's going to have to do some stuff. And I don't think it's fair to say that there won't be any bloodshed of innocent people, because there will be. It's just going to happen, and I don't want it to. And I'm glad that she's not wanting that to be something that happens, but it is going to be. And also, the people that starve in this city would still be, like, the ones that starve first would be the people. So, you know what I mean? Like, if her plan is ultimately to starve out King's Landing until they have to forfeit or whatever, then guess who's not going to eat first?
Which honestly seems more cruel than just having them die.
Yeah, because then the people
because starvation is really painful and really horrible and really slow.
That's true. And it only just now occurred to me as I was thinking about it that, like, I mean, at least they could go underground maybe with the dragons, and like, then they don't have time to prepare. I understand, but I do respect what she's saying about not listening to Tyrion for everything, because at the end of the day, Tyrion's smart, but, like, he was never one with wars. That was not, I mean, he's smart and he can think and look upon history and his experiences, but he hasn't tried this before, so I don't know. So I appreciated her advice. I think that is something that sadly will have to be taken into consideration, and I like her. I still always like her. Do you think she needs to be a dragon?
I mean, I feel like there's a way for her to instill fear in her enemies, but still, like, retain a kind of kindness to the, like, regular people. And I feel like, I don't know, I kind of wish that there was a way for her to, I don't know, with the dragons, I feel like it would be easier for her to focus attacking, like, the castle more so than the, like, surrounding city. But I mean, fire spreads and
they're weed whacking.
Yep, they are. They're weed whacking. They finished up their mower.
They got to do the
particulars.
particulars.
Time to.
I agree. I think though that things are just so ugly and bloody all the time in Westeros that like maybe just now I'm kind of realizing that, it's not going to be as easy as that. And I think Alina gave good advice because sometimes not that kindness is a weakness, but I think sometimes you have to look at the greater good. And I don't think she should purposely burn anybody, but I think somewhere in between those two plans was something maybe better. Because obviously that didn't work out. So they're gonna have to regroup, and she's probably gonna be more of a dragon in this next plan, which should be interesting. But somebody else will be there for that, so who knows how that will go. And then we got Melisandre and Grey Worm, and they, he's gonna leave, and she's like, just not gonna say goodbye to me, and he's like, no, and he confesses his feelings, and there's a a scene. The thing is, I don't even want to talk about this because it just felt so private and not my business, especially with their the nature of their relationship and what they've both been through. I just it's sweet, but I felt weird about watching it. Because they're sweet little babies, and I want them to be happy and whatever, and I'm glad. And it was good acting, but I just felt it was inappropriate for me to be watching, not on like a, ooh, what's happening level, but like on a, this is their private moment level. Yeah. I felt like a voyeur, which I didn't really appreciate, but I don't know. How did you feel about this?
I mean, I felt similar, like, it was sweet, but I was kind of like, did
it have to be so sex, though? Like, here's the real question. Yeah, because they both been traumatically abused in that sense, which I'm not saying that if somebody is traumatically abused, they can't enjoy those elements, or that, he can't enjoy his life, or she can't enjoy that side of her life. But at the same regard, I think it's not always, people can have healthy, loving, respecting relationships without sex. And people do.
Yeah, that was the thing that kind of bothered me, was it felt like the only way for them to express like how much they love each other was to have sex, and I'm like, that's not
unrelatable for
always
me.
True.
Yeah. And
I don't know. It did feel like way too private. And the other thing is, I was like, did she have to be like completely naked for them to, I don't know. I guess it was her being like vulnerable. I don't know. The whole thing just, it felt very like,
don't get me wrong,
we were peeking through a hole and watching them, and I just didn't like that.
Yeah. And moreover, that like they had just now really, maybe they'd said it before, but out loud, this was the first time they had acknowledged their feelings, and it felt weird that they would do that in the same scene as like maybe their first kiss. I can't remember if they kissed before. It was all very quick for people that, and I don't know. They've been through a lot. I don't think he's gonna die. And if he was, is it somehow gonna make it better, easier on you too if you, have that? I don't know. To each their own, but felt a little tone deaf.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was one of the scenes that I could have done with some alteration, or even without, as sad as it is, because that's...
I liked the confession part.
I did too.
I thought that was really
I just think if we had
really
cut
moving.
it off a lot sooner, they give a kiss and then it's like, bye.
It's like, oh, we don't know what they did. It doesn't matter. It's none of our business.
It's not my business.
Bye.
They kiss, confess their feelings, great. And I feel the same about anybody. It's not really exclusive to them. I just don't. Anyway, then we have Sam and the Maester, and Sam is like, "Oh, I read in a book a way to cure Jorah, but it's risky." And then the Maester is like, "No, he actually died of grayscale while he was trying to do this, so it's forbidden." And
It is forbidden.
You may not do it. And then Jorah is writing a letter to Daenerys, or Khaleesi, as he insists upon calling her still, and to say goodbye. We think
Khaleesi.
Yeah. Then Sam shows up and begins terrible, gross horrors. That's ow, ew. Why is there pus? Those are my thoughts.
Okay, and then the transition to the next scene made me want to die.
Yeah.
I was like, why are they trying to do gross out porn?
They hate us.
Why?
They're gross. They're gross boys.
Last episode and this episode, I was just like, if we could stop with the food and bodily functions,
It'd be nice.
Comparisons, I would really appreciate it. Thank you.
They just don't want to. So Jorah's just like, whatever, I guess, I was planning on dying tonight, so I guess. And it's really bad and looks really painful and disgusting. Now, here's the thing. I didn't know much about grayscale, but, I didn't think it would be pussy. I thought it would be, really dry, So I wasn't expecting that, and I think about it now, I want to throw up. And I've been really nauseous lately, so that's not fair. That's not fair.
Yeah.
To pull on me. It's very unfortunate.
I have a lot of, I remember in elementary school, there were people that would do really gross stuff at lunch, and I had, the worst gag reflex as a kid. I would see someone with ketchup on their face, and I would, gag. And there were lots of instances in elementary school where I would have to gag because people would do stuff there was this kid who would, stab stuff with a bunch of different things, like bread and ketchup and mashed potatoes, and just anything that was on his plate. He would stab it with his straw, and then he would squeeze it out slow, and it was so gross. And I remember having to gag constantly and try not to throw up, and food and bodily function stuff like that, it's taken me 30 years basically to not want to puke all the time, and when they do this, it triggers that, and it pisses me off.
Yeah, it's a weird point in the show to start doing this, because I don't remember any other time they used food and bodily functions as parallels to make you sick. Maybe it happened, but I just don't remember. I'm sorry, it was triggering. It's a very disgusting, disgusting thing. Pus is the worst. It's the worst. Let's move on then, because he's just scraping it off and applying medicine, and that's good for you, Sam. That's great. Maybe Jorah won't die. That would be cool. Good stuff. The next one, as you said, transitions into Arya seeing hot pie. She eats a lot of food. She has a chat, and he's casually mentioning that Jon is actually alive and keen in the north, which Arya apparently didn't know, because we'd been wondering. She references making pies, because remember, she made people pies, right?
LOL.
Yeah.
Ho, gross.
And then at the end, she decides that, she's actually going to go to Jon over her revenge, which Jon, obviously was the only person he was the person she was closest to. So that makes a lot of sense, but it was still there was still a struggle in her whether she should. But what's sad is obviously he's not going to be there. Oh no. Maybe she'll run into him on the road, but I don't think so.
Game of Thrones doesn't work that way.
They'll run into each other on the road. Ha ha ha. What am I talking about? So yeah, that's nice. That was an okay scene. It was okay, and I'm glad she found out, because we had wondered. And were you happy to see Hot Pie back in our lives?
I'm always happy to see him. I hope he lives, because if he dies, I'm going to be really mad. He's got a stable job. He's living his life. He's making
Listen,
pie.
He's not going to make it, but I hope you're right.
I just like that he lives far enough away where I'm I don't think that if they
what do we
blast
know?
King's Landing, you're not going to die.
Here's the thing. What do they always do to taverns when they're soldiers? let's be real here. If an all-out war begins and he's serving soldiers or people invade, they might take over the tavern. They might keep him alive for food. We don't know. Not to eat him, but to make food. I should clarify. Or I don't, I can't, if they're starving, we don't know. Listen, there's some dark sides here. Some dark sides.
I'm gonna just try and stay positive.
That's good.
It's a fool's errand, but I'm gonna try.
Yeah, thanks, because I don't know if I got it in me.
Don't worry. I'll hold the vigil.
She's on her way. Then Jon gets Sam's raven, finally. Time is a weird thing in Westeros. He sent that last episode.
Sometimes it's real fast. Sometimes it's real slow. Yeah.
So he gets the raven. He realizes, oops, because the Dragonstone has Dragon Glass Mountain there. So I guess I do have to go. Sansa and the Lords, when he tells them, Sansa, once again, is very vocal, which I guess is consistent with last episode. Maybe not her characterization in general.
I think the reason she's being more like outspoken is because she's not afraid of Jon, which is good. Yeah. I'm glad she's not afraid of him. I mean,
I wouldn't be afraid of him.
Like it's the whole, how you fight the most with, well, not the most, but you're more comfortable fighting with someone you care about and cares about you because you know that you're not gonna like toss in the towel just because you're disagreeing.
Remember when they were plotting first with Jon before the Ramsay battle? She was kind of quiet there. Maybe I'm wrong, but something did change. I don't know what that was. Maybe it was being back home. I mean, you could be right. But the Lords and Sansa and even little bear baby is like, no, you shouldn't go. We need you. But Jon's like, yeah, I gotta go. And also, Sansa, you're in charge. And Sansa's like,
I really appreciated that.
Power. Which...
Well, that, and, it also shows, like, he trusts you, and, you've been worried this whole time that he, doesn't, or he thinks you're stupid or something, and it's, like, clearly he wants, your counsel, and he thinks you're smart, and he thinks you're capable.
This just, it should reassure me, but it just scares me more because I know that Jon and Sansa's relationship deteriorates more over the season, so I'm concerned about where this is going to go, because it seems like it's going in a good direction, and yet I know it's not going to, so... This just makes me more upset.
I have a feeling it has to do with Littlefinger.
Littlefinger, I like that one. Littlefinger. He's been sticking his fingers in the litter box.
He's made of litter.
He could be a really bad, ugly, rude cat, which doesn't exist, but that's him. So Sansa's in charge.
With a really ugly mustache.
True. We knew this was going to happen. There's no shock here. He told them that's that. And then the next scene is my favorite of the episode. The next scene...
You enjoying that leaf blower action?
I am. That was also my favorite. The next scene is when Jon is down in the crypt, and he's seeing his... I don't know if she'd be called a stepmother, the mother of his siblings, and quote-unquote, and Ned, his quote-unquote father's statue down there, and Littlefinger goes down... And he's like, I brought your father's bones back, and I loved your mom like I love Sansa. I love Sansa like I loved your mom. And, the thing is, I don't condone violence, but, he's like, you don't belong down here. He's very clearly, not into it, not reciprocating. And Littlefinger just, pressed on and said that, and he's disgusting and I hate him. And so when Jon is, pushes him up against a wall and parallels that Ned scene, I think that happened in King's Landing, where Ned pushes him against a wall too and kind of sort of chokes him. This is the only time that I was in a long time that I was Jon, thank you. Because he deserves it.
To be honest, I was like, just finish it off. Because, the other creepy thing is basically Littlefinger was implying, I have sexual feelings for your little sister. And it's that's disgusting. You're disgusting. You're old as fuck. get the hell away from
Mm-hmm.
her and get the hell away from me, or I'm going to choke you out and bury you in the backyard.
I think Sansa can handle herself. However, I still feel like he's got no business there, and he's not necessary, and he's just so stupid. Like, what was he doing? Yeah. Was he really? They hadn't really talked apparently at all, which I understand. But this was the first time that it kind of occurred to me something brutally sad, which is that that maybe some of my issues with Jon, especially in the books, but somewhat in the show, and well, a lot in the show, is that maybe I feel a little too similar to him on some issues. Maybe he reminds me a little bit of myself in some circumstances. Because at that I was like, oh God, that's probably what I would want to do. And I think a lot of people, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but because I'm not a huge Jon fan, I kind of had to angle back and be like, does this fit his characterization? But I still really loved the scene. It was still my favorite. And I think "You Don't Belong Down Here" was a really great line and a really great callback. Yeah. There's been a lot of them to paralleling scenes from previous seasons, but this was one that I really loved. And yeah, I hope something happens. Like I said, I still hope it's Sansa that gets to make that decision. But I'd be okay with anything at this point. Maybe Arya, like somebody. She doesn't have too much a reason on a personal level, but it would be fun. I don't know.
Yeah, it would. It would be fun.
And I don't know. Anything you want to say about Mr. Littlefinger before?
Littlefinger can get wrecked.
Yeah, he can get wrecked.
Fuck him.
The next scene is my least favorite, which is a nice going from my favorite to my least favorite. It's very appropriate, I feel. The next one is Arya and Nymeria and her super PAC. And my thought on this was pointless and ultimately, some people were like bittersweet. I think stupid and unnecessary. This was an irritating scene as somebody who misses the direwolves like any normal person and also loved Nymeria. And Arya's relationship. And I felt this was just dumb. And the line that everybody was like, what do they mean? When Arya at the end, when Nymeria doesn't really do anything, just sniffs her and then like leaves, Arya's like at first like sad, wounded, but then she's like, that's not you. And I like, when they said in the after episode what that meant, I understood they mean that like in season 1 when Ned's like talking about her being a lady and whatever, and she's just sword whatever, and I think at that time sword practicing, she gets up or she sits next to her dad and she's like, that's not me. Not being a lady isn't her. And so Nymeria being with her and going to Winterfell is not her anymore. She's a super PAC leader. Fine. Got it. However, unnecessary and deeply sad and not something I wanted.
Well, and I also misunderstood it at first. I was like, wait.
Yeah, I was like, is this not her? Is that like her? Is this not her?
Is that like her offspring or something? And she like, because, animals can pass down like information like that. So I was like, well, maybe she like recognizes Arya's scent or something. And then when they explained it in the after episode, I was like, oh. Yeah, that didn't come across. I couldn't remember that scene from the first fucking season.
No.
You dipshits.
Like, here's the thing. I feel like sometimes they think they're being clever in ways that, like, sure, yeah, it's clever. Callbacks are great and all, but they're not in ways that maybe align with what I like to see or what resonates with me. And I know that those are expensive to do those scenes. So it was kind of felt wasted and and I would have been okay without it because that's just not the conclusion I wanted. I'm not like expecting, I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, I know a lot of people have been wanting like a Nymeria Arya reunion, and then when they do that kind of thing, I like sometimes in shows when fans ask for something, I understand that it's frustrating because you feel like you're being stripped of your creative freedom, but then they'll do stuff where I feel like they're punishing fans, like not necessarily just them, but other shows. And I just want to be like, okay, if you're pissed off, like don't do something to be cruel. Just don't do it. You know what I mean? Like, just say, that's not the direction we want to go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. You're not writing it. We are. But there are certain things where I'm like, were you doing this to be cruel? Because it feels a little bit like you were.
It feels not right. And that's all I got.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I almost named one of the kitties Nymeria because I just love that name, but it didn't work out. I almost named Gigi Nymeria but it just didn't fit. Anyway, then the next one is that big battle of what's his name? I don't even know. Euron, which, I mean, I could get into it right now and say that, like, they didn't see him. What's going on? How shitty are they that they didn't see all of them? They're freaking boats, guys. This is not like, they're not jet skis. Even so, that's not fast enough. They're not speedboats, okay? Like, I think there would be some visuals ahead of time. I don't know how, was it that foggy? I can't remember. I'm not rewatching the scene. I rewatched most of the episode, but I didn't rewatch this for kind of obvious reasons. I kind of like tune out a little bit and only observe what I must.
Well, that and they start off with its Asha and what's her face like hooking up, and I was like, don't kiss her, she's the worst.
They're both kind of the worst. Like, to be honest, Yara is her. I like her book counterpart, but Yara on the show is the worst. I will get into that later. I just don't like her, which is sad.
I was thinking of her book name.
Asha.
Yeah, her name's Yara.
Asha in the books, which is a much better name. But they were like, that's too similar to Arya. Is it? Can you spell? Well,
that, and I think it was also really close to the wildling Asha.
Well, whatever. She's dead.
I know. She's
dead now.
Stupid. It's one of those things names. Where it's like,
we're not stupid. We're not stupid.
And I want to be like, there's like 5,000 Ashleys in our world, and it's not like you're like, well, I can't recognize that Ashley.
The Game of Thrones Telltale series, I think Asher is a character. I can't remember, but anyway, listen, we know we're watching Game of Thrones. Like, don't treat us like we're stupid. You can keep names. Like, some decisions are kind of ridiculous. But you're right. That scene does happen. And like, it made me uncomfortable because all the like the bisexual women scenes on this show or lesbian scenes are just like, they always feel so freaking skeevy. I hate it. There's nothing nice about it.
It felt weirdly like they were trying to make
Theon uncomfortable and like have him join in. I'm like,
and I was like, that's gross. Please stop.
Please don't do this to me. I can't handle this today. So that was great, but that led right into Euron's attack. And like I said, I mean, do you think there would have been some forewarning about this whole fleet coming upon them? Like, what was going on?
Like, I get that it was thick fog, but at the same time, I'm just like, I don't see how you could
you're
not.
Sailors. You're like, there's lots of, you're freaking Greyjoys. Like, this is your thing. How could he find
this
you?
Your element. I don't know. It was very frustrating. I was sort of like, they didn't like take a way that they thought would maybe be like unsuspected, because I would assume that they expect Euron to attack them. Like, you're on the water.
After I don't know. It's still a lot about like, how did he get all his ships ready? This takes a long time. What is going on? I can't really apply realism though, because so many things don't allow for realism in this world. I'm fine with that, whatever. But I just primarily have a problem with how they were able to get one up on them and why they weren't prepared. And also, because, here's the thing, we had seen in the trailer that he was bringing back them. So we knew how it was going to end, which is kind of upsetting because I don't really like watching something and knowing how it's going to end. That's not fun. So for me, the whole time I was just like, all right, who's going to die? Because obviously this is going to happen. So who's dying? I know Bara died, which is unfortunate because she was my favorite. I can't remember what her actor is from, but I like her actor most. And Obara is the one with the shorter hair. And she's definitely dead. And I think I think is her name also Nymeria, the other sand snake?
I don't
I don't
know.
know. It's Nim something. She was attacked. I think she's dead. I think the only wait, I might be wrong. Is she the one that's still alive? At least
Whatever one is the daughter of Alana.
That one's
whatever
alive.
Her name
that
is,
one's
Paramore
that one's
lady.
alive with her.
I can never remember her name because she I know that I love her as all of the Dragonite character. She plays Vivian, right? Yeah, love her as Vivian, but really hate the character in the show.
She's
really
also
just not a fan.
Sloane Kelly.
Oh yeah, she's Sloane Kelly too.
Yeah, so it really blows. It blows that she's in that position of like that. But yeah, that was the worst. Those are still the worst scenes, the worst anything in my life to happen on HBO. But yeah, okay, Obara is definitely dead. The one that was down there protecting her is, as we know, alive, and the other one is probably dead. Yeah.
Yeah, she was dead. One was being hung off of the mast, and the other that's who they were showing was one was being hung off the mast, and the other was I think impaled on it. It was really horrible. It was I did not like that.
Yeah, so you bring them on for absolutely nothing, then you brutally murder them. I'm so happy. What a day.
Gotta love Euron.
That concludes. They capture Ilaria and the child we can't remember the name of. And then Yara, we know she's doomed, but she attempts to battle Euron. And he gets her with his cool tentacle dagger, I think. I want that. But I think that's what that was. A dagger that was had squid stuff. Anyway. He holds it to her, then with his crazy eyes, that whole scene was pretty wild. It was very upsetting for me, so I kind of don't like thinking about it. But he holds it to her neck. He sees Theon. Theon's walking out. He, I think, has a sword or something in his hand. And then he's like, come and get her. This is my scene. Maybe this is my least favorite, only because I have been so annoyed with the whole Yara, how she treats her brother, how everybody treats Theon. That I don't even know where to start with this scene, but I guess I'll just lay out what happens. So Yara's being held captive. He's like, come here. Theon, is having horrible traumatic memories of what has happened to him. He's scared. He doesn't know what to do. Part of him wants to charge, which is stupid, in my opinion. I'll get back to that later. But Yara makes a face, apparently, which is to articulate that she feels betrayed by her brother for not stampeding in to try and save her when there's nobody else around, and he has a knife to her throat. Cool. So Theon jumps off. Euron laughs maniacally. Theon is, I guess, left out there. I don't think they pick him up. So he's on his lonesome in the wreckage and looks upset. And then the after episode, before we get into that, the creators of the show, D, whatever their names are like, yeah, they explain basically that she's disappointed in him and that Theon is too traumatized by his past. And of course that would still affect him. Funny how they pick and choose times where it affects him. Funny how trauma works.
Yeah, I was like, have you guys done any research on PTSD? Have you talked to anyone with PTSD? Because I feel like it wouldn't just randomly
occur. Yeah, I think there would have been. I think if they're going for realism now, you're missing it. But
yeah, because I mean, I believe that would trigger it, but I feel like we would have seen
it was such a
more of it,
and even an insensitive and horrible way of treating it in the past, and then still insensitively doing it, because I don't think Yara is that bad of a person. In the past, when she's taunted him for his trauma and made fun of him, and people still make fun of him for being abused and all of that, and her anger at him when she first found him, and then later on when he was still traumatized and the whole Reek thing, but and then her being angry. Now, realistically here, I think if Theon had done what Yara and everyone apparently expects of him, if he had come in, I think Euron would have slit her throat and she would have died. That's what I think.
Well, and then he would have killed
True.
Theon, and nobody would be able to get back to Daenerys and tell her what happened.
That's very true.
Like,
so that's my main problem, number one, with Yara making a face or being upset, or anyone being upset that or even the creators thinking that he should have done it. And the only thing preventing him from, not doing it is his trauma triggered. He's triggered, so he can't do it. He has to run and revert back to his what the...
Well, that, and I honestly, when Yara was captive, I thought she was going to make a face at him go,
no,
leave.
But that's not who Yara is. Apparently Yara doesn't understand anything, and she's incredibly stupid and cruel, and that's all I can think. It does make sense.
Well, then the other thing is Yara's constantly like, I can handle myself, and I feel like that would have been a point to show like her being like, I can handle this.
His trauma has made him fail his only family, and he is weak because he does not do stupid things to be strong, and he has trauma, and that's the only reason that he wouldn't have done that thing. And Yara's mad because he's not a man, and that's that. And he doesn't have a penis. Woohoo.
I just thought, that whole scene made me mad, and I was like, I just can't see. No, just no.
He did the only decent thing in that situation, and I feel like no one is going to ever acknowledge that on the show. I honestly think that if he speaks to anybody back at Camp Daenerys, that they'll be like, well, I mean, duh. But I think he saved her life, and I think it's ridiculous. I just don't see a scenario where Euron wouldn't have at least immediately killed his sister. The only thing that amused him was that he ran, So I think he saved her life, and I don't see the problem. I don't see this stupid toxic masculinity bullshit that apparently we're supposed to want.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I just, like, why are they erasing all of the really brave things that Theon's done? I mean, he freed Sansa from their abuser, their shared abuser. Not just her abuser, their shared abuser. And, like, did a bunch of really brave, hard things for someone who's been that traumatized and that abused. And for them to just, I don't know, imply like, well, he's still
Reek,
and
he's still Reek. He's still his trauma. He's a weak little boy. He can't even defend his sister. And his sister's so mad. What? Like, honestly, I hope Yara dies, because I'm over this bullshit. I'm over it. I'm over it all.
Bye-bye, Yara.
Sorry, you've been stupid for long enough.
I really did think she was gonna, be like, get the hell out of here, you need to warn her, or you need to warn them.
That's not how it works. Everybody's really stupid, and they think, like, the most generic little Knight's Tale is, like, you gotta stand up for your honor in this moment. You don't have to think. Don't think, I don't know. It sort of reminded me of the reverse of what Jon did, which, remember, he tried to save, what was their other brother's name? Brandon? Was it Bran?
Yeah.
He tried to save
Bran.
Is it? No, wait. No, the other one.
Robb?
The other one.
Rickon?
Yeah, he tried to save Rickon, remember, and he ran after him, and everybody was like, don't do it, because, like, they were just going to kill him anyway. And maybe I don't know. I felt like that was the opposite situation. Like, Jon should have stayed. I don't know. I still have strong feelings about that moment. That was so bad. What were you saying? Stuff. Well, I don't know. It makes me sad.
Yeah, that whole thing just was some bullshit. But I guess we'll see how it turns out, but I just don't have any faith in the creators, to be totally honest. I think they're both idiots. And I don't know. Like, I honestly, the only reason I'm still watching is because I want to see what happens.
I want to see next week.
Real bad. A lot of their reasoning and stuff and why they put stuff in is, I'm like, you are so high on your own, like, fart smell. And I hate you both. I hate you both.
You know what? I don't know if I mentioned this last review of the 01 or whatever, but I was actually thinking that, like, a lot of people have complaints about Emilia Clarke depiction of Daenerys, and I was actually thinking that like I've seen her in other things. Like she like the only one I can off the top of my head reference is Me Before You, I think it's called. And like she has like a million expressions and she's a really good actor. And there's nothing about her other acting that I've seen that is like stoic or unless it's called for, or like or bad, I guess would be the word. However, people have like complained about her being deadpan. And I think one of the big flaws for me of the show, which is kind of off topic, but sort of on how they have chosen to interpret and direct actors, is that I feel like because of her role, they've decided that she has to be deadpan. Whereas I think some of the things in the show just come down to direction. I highly doubt that's how Amelia came in and thought to portray the role, because it feels very one tone. Like she can only be this if she doesn't have like a wide spectrum of emotions and doesn't. And she is a very sort of introverted, but only because of her circumstance, I think. Like she has a lot of internal dialogue in the books, maybe more than other people because of her situation and who she's surrounded by and like how she's been abused and she wasn't always able to say what she feels. So I kind of always took that as an excuse, but I think the direction of some stuff has been like a huge problem. And specifically that, because I think Daenerys would have been a much better show character had she been allowed to have like more exterior emotions displayed, and sometimes that's not as relatable and that's like unfortunate. But my point is that sometimes like the direction, even like characters like Yara and the writing and everything, just make it so hard to like, and that's why you feel defensive of the books is and like mad sometimes at the creators who have these decisions to make and choose these things, is that you like know that that's not really how you ever saw it in the books, and you're pretty sure that's not how George saw it and other people saw it. So it's just kind of disappointing sometimes when the direction of the show is so unchanging in that regard and not good, you know.
Sometimes it feels like I'm reading a bad fan fiction.
Sometimes it does. I agree.
Like characters aren't quite right, or their
that's
motivations.
a big one,
you're sort of like, what's going on?
Or like Jamie. Jamie's like the biggest, in my opinion, and probably yours. He's the biggest like disconnect between book Jamie and show Jamie.
Yep.
And then as far as, and then I have to say Daenerys because I love her so much and I feel like she's been effed up. What can you do? I heard that George is working on more other stories or like tales about Westeros itself or the world of fire, ice and fire. Is it fire and ice? I don't remember. Fire and ice. I'm tired. Ice and fire. I genuinely don't know at this point. It's ice and fire. Anyway. And we still, it's been like 5 years or 6 years before book. I'm just waiting. I'm trying to be so patient, Georgie. I even named my cat sort of after you. I call Gigi my kitty, Georgie. Anyway, I
saw a thing that said, he said we could expect possibly 1 or 2 books in 2018.
Just help me, George. This is so bad without the books. I just want to know. I want to know. Please, George.
What's sad is if the books were all done, I think I would be way less interested in even watching the show. Because it'd be like, well, I don't really care. I already know what's happening. I know what's happened. I know what's supposed to happen. But since we have to wait so long between each book, it's like you're just desperate to see, like, I want to know.
I think it was supposed to happen before this season, or like, I think it was supposed to happen last year. And then something happened. I don't know. I feel bad that it's hard. Writing's hard, I know, but I'm waiting. I'm waiting here patiently because the show's going to be over and I just want a book. I want a book.
That is so mean, Kitty.
What'd she do? Is she being abusive? Is she being a little Yara?
Yeah.
You're being a little
Yeah,
yard.
the only way to get her to go away is to, like, make an angry cat noise, and she runs
Yeah.
away, because she's like, oh, shit, I made her mad.
Oh no. Oh.
Pretty
Yeah,
much.
okay. Did we miss anything? Do you have any other thoughts you wanna?
No, and I mean, we're at
We are.
120,
We
an hour,
are.
20 minutes, so we should probably
We
wrap
are.
it up.
So I'm just gonna say, I don't usually talk or watch the trailers too much, but we do know that even for a brief moment next episode, we are going to encounter Jon meeting Daenerys, which
Woo!
a lot of us have been looking forward to. I am sadly a Jon Daenerys shipper, and I hate myself so much. I don't want to talk about it.
I only ship
I
Brienne
know
and
you
Jamie,
do.
so
I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't want to. Like I said, I'm not going to talk about it here. But moreover, I'm just excited because when I saw that scene at the end of the trailer for next episode, and Jon sees Dany, all I could think was, I would fall to my knees and die. That just shows who I am. But if I was Jon anyway, because like, can you imagine? Can you imagine a universe in which you're not like, maybe like, straight women can't and gay men. I don't know. Or somebody who's just not interested. I don't know, but I can't imagine that universe, and I'm just excited. I'm so excited. That's the one area where I'm okay if they make it really pandering and bullshit. Fine. Do whatever you want. Do what you want. Just don't kill my children.
I mean, I'm excited for you, but
Yeah, you should be more excited because it's going to be pretty fun. Sadly, Becca's going to be out of town until the end of next week, so we won't get to talk about it until probably right before the next episode. So we'll see. I'm going to make her do it though, at least Saturday, hopefully before the next episode, but it's going to be late, which is fine.
yeah.
I can't do it alone, man. I can't.
Nah. It sucks because I think I'm gonna have to share a hotel room with my parents, so it's not like, because if I were getting my own hotel room, I'd be like, oh, well, I can just record at the hotel, but since they're gonna be right there, I feel super uncomfortable doing that.
I understand. It's okay. We'll be okay. But I think that's all we had to say. This was a longer one simply because there was more. I feel like there's more stuff. I think it was a longer episode than the last one. So
It was a very meaty episode. Like, there was a lot.
Not
Much
as much
meaty.
wasted time. Some scenes that I think was stupid, but
Yeah, well, yeah. There's always at least 2 scenes that I'm like, why did we waste our time? You could have done something
that's generous.
that had a purpose.
Generous. I think there's usually 3, but sometimes, like, I don't know. We've talked enough. We'll just leave it there, and we will be late on the next one, but we will still be here because yeah. Okay, catch you in the next one. Anyway, not copyrighted. Bye.
Bye.